Hey everyone, Lisa Resnick with The Real Tea. I am with Marvin of the Downtown Development Group. What's up, Mark?
Hey, how are you, Lisa?
Good. So, Marvin, I'm sure we have seen his name in the paper and the news often, not just recently, but you've been highlighted a lot in our community, and it's all good
Yes.
things. So
Hmm.
he is, a lot of people know him. He's a developer and he has done extraordinary things in Trumbull County in the Warren area.
Hmm.
And I would like to know, to start off, before we kick off into the details of the projects, not too in depth, but into the details of the project, I would like to know what got you into the world of development, redevelopment. So what
Hmm.
brought you and your interest that led you to this point?
Well, I'm not real good at talking about myself, but we'll give it a shot here.
Everybody has to have
I'm
their stump
an
speech.
I'm an engineer by trade and an architect as well. And we did our thing for years. We found a niche business in the steel business, and we worked it for years. And then we developed two plants. One in Warren, right at the edge of town in Warren, and one out in New Mexico. And we
Oh,
did that for quite a few years. We ran both plants. We were successful in doing those plants, but all along I always wanted to get into development. I just didn't have the time nor the money to really do it at those times. And we're running the Marvin Group business. We're also running these facilities, and it gets very time consuming. So in 2015, 2014, 2015, we were basically made an offer we couldn't refuse on the plants. And so we decided to sell the two plants, both of which are still operating today. The one in Warren's going strong, three shifts a day, I think 5 or 6 days a week at least. So we sold them and we got out of the manufacturing business, but we kept the Marvin Group side. And at that time, we, gave us the opportunity then to go into development. So we kind of turned inward. We already had a development with the plant at the edge of town, and said, there's a trend towards people going back to downtown, not just millennials and
yes.
things of that sort. People, don't want to mow grass anymore. They don't want to shovel snow anymore. And if you're in northeastern Ohio, and they were going back into town. And so we said, well, let's take a look and see how we can make this work. We looked at the YMCA that lost their charter at the time, and unfortunately it didn't work out, but it really led to a lot of better things, I think. And then that's when we talked to the Youngstown Warren Regional Chamber. They had the Mahoning building and the two attached buildings, and said, we really get out of the real estate business. Would you be interested in purchasing these buildings? So we took a look
Okay.
at them, said, yeah, they're good buildings, they're solid. Yes, we'll negotiate a deal, and we did. And that kind of really was what got our foot in the door, for us to start doing what we did. And then all of a sudden dominoes just started to fall. A building here became available, a building there became available, where people, I think, we're getting out of the downtown. We looked at it and said, you know what, we feel that if you build it, they will come. If you build some
I
condos, people will
agree.
buy them. And it was the trend that was going on all over the United States, really. And I think it is still trending. The pandemic hit a little bit, but it's still a trending issue. And we saw that. And the good thing about it is we saw some younger people come down, like Nova Coffee, for example. They were the first ones to jump in. We had some talks with Modern Methods, with Adam Keck over at Modern Methods at first. But with the system that he had, we just couldn't fit him into one building. It just wasn't going to work. And we both knew it. And so Nova came up, and Nova's just been a gold mine over there for those guys. They've done great. And then we started renovating the buildings and building 10 condominiums downtown. And a lot of people ask me, why condos? And I said, well, we want to do condos at first because if you sell the condos, then those people that buy them are vested in downtown. They're
That's right.
not transient where they're coming in and they're renting for a year and then they're leaving. With this, they're going to stay there. They're going to care about the community. They're going to care about what Courthouse Square looks like in the surrounding areas, and they're going to speak up if they see something that they don't like. And they sold almost immediately. I mean, we had down payments before we even started some of them, so it worked out real well as far as that goes.
How difficult is it to go through a condo conversion for a building and setting up that association?
I mean, you have to be able to see it. I mean, for sure. There's a lot of people who thought we were crazy. The Mahoning building was actually pretty easy. We put condos on the the fifth, sixth, and seventh floors there, and it was fairly easy because they were wide open floors. We also have them on 124 North Park and 118 North Park. Those were a lot more difficult. There was apartments up there 80 years ago that hadn't been lived in probably for 60 to 70 years ago. And so those were a lot more difficult. And when I told our crew we were going to put a townhouse in the back and cut half the floor out for a look over, so you could look down into the living room area, they thought I was crazy. But I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see that townhouse, but it just came out spectacular. I mean, it looks like something you'd see in Manhattan, really. Yeah. So there has to be a little vision that goes with it too.
I think that, like you just mentioned, referencing a place in Manhattan, you just referenced the whole fact that nationwide, we are showing that there is this push more towards the centralized downtown areas. And we're not the exception. And you are absolutely correct. If we provide it to them, they will come. We know that people want walkability. We know people's times are limited. So if we're able to release in other areas, such as mowing the lawn, then and still providing them like a phenomenal opportunity of living their lives to their fullest extent, then people are going to jump at that, and you're providing them something new. But it's not even just the residential side, but you've also done things when it comes to the economic development in lifestyles, if you will, providing that entertainment side as well.
Yeah, you can't do one without the other. I mean, the whole idea when we looked at this was we have to make sure that if people are going to live downtown, there's things to do downtown, because the idea is you're in walking distance with everything. That's the idea of not mowing grass too, and not shoveling snow. Is when I come out, I can go 2 doors down and I can get a beer. I can go 2 doors the other way and I can get a sandwich. And then in this case, pretty much the last item that we looked at is we had the amp, and Ken Hyderis has done a great job with River Rock. I think last weekend there was 5,000 people downtown, which was just fantastic to see after the pandemic.
Yes.
But we looked at it and said, it only lasts from, the end of May until the beginning of September, and then it's done. But people want to do things year round. So we took a look at the Robbins Theater and said, we think this will be the final piece to the puzzle. I think we have one more final piece that we'll talk about. We said, hey, this will be the final piece to the puzzle that will keep people coming year round. And so we looked at the Robbins Theater and we felt it was worth saving. And certainly, it proved to be worth saving. So now really, if you're living downtown within a, let's say a 5-block area downtown, you can literally just walk to where you're going. You can get something to eat at Jack or Weston Main or Charbonnet's or Sunrise. And then after that, you can walk to a show, and after the show, you can go get a beer at Modern Methods or, Weston Main or something like that. So it's a good dynamic. And with that, it's provided people with pretty much everything to do. We need a little bit more retail to come to downtown, which, we've been working on. And we need a grocery store downtown, which we've also been working on. So once those two elements come in, you'll really have the full slate of things for where they can live within that 5-block radius. They can see their friends. They can go to shows. They can go eat. They can go get a drink. And, go to Charbonnet's and across the river, sit down, relax on a Friday or Saturday. Or now, once she gets her license in hand on a Sunday, which will be fantastic.
It is fantastic, and that is what we're all desiring. We love that lifestyle, and even for us suburbanites that go into the downtown areas, I mean, that's what we're looking for, is that full day event. And to have it, whether it be 40 minutes away, 15 minutes away, we do have these options at our fingertips, which it's great for us to do that. And grocery is definitely, grocery is not an easy one, but there are markets out there, grocery stores, that might not be the monstrosities of Wegmans or Harris Teeter's Giant Eagles or whatever, but there are. And I know Whole Foods, and I'm just saying this to everybody out there, Whole Foods is not building anymore. They're done. It's not going to happen.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. And we've seen a trend, and we talked to a couple of people, and one of the people that we talked to had told us that, there is a trend where, I mean, you even see it with Walmart, for example. Obviously Walmart's a mega store, but they have this neighborhood market that they call it, and it's not that big. And there's others that are in this like 15,000 to 25,000 square foot niche. And so that's why we've looked at the basement of Mickey's, which everybody's a basement of Mickey's, really? The old Mickey's Plaza in downtown. We're like, yeah, but the concept will be a little bit different. And it's 16,000 square feet down there, which is almost a perfect size for a grocery store that does have better produce, does have a little bit better eats, that people will come to. And I think if we put it down there, it's not just going to be the downtown people that'll flock to it. We think that some of the suburbanites and everybody else will come down if they know they can get a little bit better product, or if we have a wintertime summers market in there, and things of that sort, where you can get the really fresh stuff right out of right off the farm. We think people will like that as well. So there's that one element, but you need that just to make sure that you pull the whole dynamic in.
I completely agree. And if people are willing to travel to Cleveland and Pittsburgh to go grocery shopping, they'll definitely be willing to go in the basement of Mickey's to get good grocery as well. And you just because things haven't been done in the past doesn't mean they can't be done today. And that's the great thing about innovation. You have to have that mindset. So let's talk about your thought process and everything. Now, looking at Warren, where you've done phenomenal things. Obviously, we have heard that you are looking also in downtown Youngstown as well.
Yes. Yeah. That's been big news, I guess, lately.
Yes, it is.
I know. It's hard. Sometimes you look in, and I think you mentioned early on, like what makes you want to look at certain things like that. And, we took a quick walkthrough with the Strauss's building. I call it Strauss's 20 Federal Place. But to me, it's always going to be Strauss's. So we took a walk through.
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt, but the Strauss's building was the building, because believe it or not, like I remember when I was a kid, the Strauss's building had the bridge connector, right?
That's correct. Yes, it did. It had, you parked in the back. It had a bridge connector that came in, I think it was the second or third floor, and you walked across, and then you walked right in. And of course, there's two buildings on either side that it connected to as well. The old Chase building that was just up for sale or up for auction, and then there was a building on the other side. But yeah, it did. You parked in a parking deck in the back. It had the connector that came across the street in the back. I think Commerce in the back there, and walked right in, and boom, you were there, and you're ready to go shopping. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So that'll be, I mean, to me, it's hard to pass up an address like that. You can go in, you can look at it. It's almost like the Robbins Theater. When we looked at the Robbins Theater and knew that, yes, this could be saved. It was an address. It was a property that was really hard to pass up. So the old Strauss's building, 20 Federal Place, is kind of very similar. That it's kind of one of those addresses that's hard to pass up. If you can get it, you can be lucky enough to put in a proposal that likes, and you can get the property. I think there's a lot that can be done there. I agree. I personally, and this is not a slight on the city at all. So I don't want anybody listening to take it this way, but I think the use of it right now is being misused. I don't think it's used in a proper manner. Nothing against food courts and things of that sort, but I think there's a lot more that could be done on that first floor to make it way more attractive, to bring, more foot traffic downtown, more foot traffic into the building. Anything goes for the mezzanine level as well. I think there's a lot more that can be done. And then if you look up to about the fourth floor and above, or the fifth floor and above, you can really do, the building's kind of strange because it doesn't lay out like some of the other ones really, really great for condos. So you're going to be limited on the condo space that you can put in those areas. But from a condo living standpoint, we can build some really great condos up there, let me tell you. And I think we can even put some in that'll be a little bit more lower to market rate for like maybe graduating students that don't have a lot of money, still have some student loans going out, that they could come downtown if they want to stay in Youngstown, and they have their first professional job in Youngstown. They can buy one of these, and we're going to try to make them affordable so that somebody can do that. But, you look at, and I don't want to give our plan away, too much here, but
Yeah.
you look at some of the other amenities that can be put on each floor with the living space, it really makes it attractive to them from there. But I think the space can be utilized better than where it is right now. We feel very strongly about that. So we're going to push hard to try to get our proposal, the one that they accept. And we think we can do some pretty good things with that. It's just such an attractive address that for us, it was hard not to walk through, look at, and pass up and say, nah, we're not going to do it. But there's still a lot of questions and a lot of work to be done to see if how we go forward.
There is definitely a lot of potential with that building. There's a lot of potential with a lot of the buildings downtown.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I envision it all the time of if you take a picture of a block and of what really is, and then you got a marker and you drew on that picture and showing what it could be is something that is constantly probably running through your mind when you're looking at things, and it's constantly running through my mind, which you do need to be able to do that when you're in this line of work.
I mean, being in the line you're in, it's you do that all the time. Say, hey, what can we do? What can be done? Sure.
You have to think outside the box. You really, truly do. And you always have to think about those puzzle pieces that go together. It's not just filling the space. It's filling the space with the right person to make the entire area grow from it.
Right.
So I do have to ask you this before we go. Okay. What advice would you have to give anyone out there as someone who yourself went from, granted, you did have the engineering architectural background, so you were a little bit ahead of the game in that regard.
Yeah.
But when going into development, whether it be condo conversions or just straight up commercial real estate, what advice would you have to give to anyone who was looking to do these things themselves?
Well, I think that you look at other people that have been successful in it, and I think everybody has a really bad tendency at times to think real big. You know what I mean? And I think and even in my own personal experience, when I graduated from architectural school, I thought I was going to be the next IMP or something like that, or Gaudi, and here I was designing bathrooms for nursing homes, right? Not exactly the thing you want to be doing when you have these high aspirations, but I put them so high that I hated it, and it's all I ever wanted to be. And that's when I switched to engineering and went back to school and got my engineering degree. So I think what my advice would be is you start small. There's nothing wrong with buying for example, if you want to do buildings, there's nothing wrong with starting and buying a small building, Yep. But you have to do your due diligence first. It's very important. Say, okay, what do I want to do with this building? Do I want to put a barber shop in it? Do I want to put an ice cream shop in it? And do I want to put an apartment upstairs? And a lot of people, and I've seen and talked to a lot of people too, that start in the residential market first, and they do they flip the houses. But it gives them a great line of experience for a cheap entry point. Hey, I bought this house and I bought it for $20,000. I fixed it up. I sold it for $35,000. Okay. And now they're looking at this and then they can graduate into the commercial side of things. But when you do go downtown, you make the best pick that you can. Obviously, it's always buy low, sell high. It's no different than the stock market, really. Very that. And so you go in, you try to find that deal. But know what you're going to do with the building going in, and when you know what you're going to do with that footprint, and then you go and you do that, then it will sell, it will rent, it will sell. But I think everybody has grand notions a lot of times when they go, I want to buy the tallest building in the city, or I want to do this, and you're better off buying the smallest one in the city, quite frankly, because it'll rent easier a lot of times, and it's easier and a lot less costly to fix it up. And as you do that, and either you rent them and you build up that base of income, then you can move to the next one and the next one and the next one and so on and so forth. So my advice is really start small. There's nothing wrong with starting small and then getting bigger as you accumulate your assets and you accumulate that base. Then it makes it easier to go into the next item. And I guarantee you, sooner or later, you'll probably own the tallest building in town then. So it's a lot easier to start small, and it's a lot cheaper to start small, believe me.
This is true. If it doesn't work out, the falls is closer to the ground.
Exactly correct. Yeah. In both ways, that's exactly correct. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for joining me on The Realty. That's absolutely phenomenal. You're great. I can't wait to see more things that you are doing for the Valley as a whole. I think it's awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Lisa. I appreciate it. It was very good to see you.
Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that little bell for notifications. And also make sure to connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. For all of your business news, visit businessjournaldaily.com. For all of your arts and entertainment news, go to afterhoursyoungstown.com.